Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Girl Next Door podcast. My name is Sean. I'm your host, aka your number one source of fashionably but occasionally great pop culture takes. Today we are celebrating me. For people who don't know, which I'm assuming is going to be a lot of people, I came out to my family 8 years ago, which is fucking wild and impossible for me to wrap my head around. That's been 8 years. I knew that an anniversary stream was going to be coming up soon, but I didn't do the time math for it until literally last night, actually. So that it hit me. I'm just like, oh yeah, shit, I came out in like 2014. Now it's 2022 and my life is so great now, right? Haha, ha 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 ha. Everything is perfect and the world isn't completely in shambles. No, but it is an interesting position to be in when like I wasn't okay. How emo are we gonna get tonight? I'm not actually sure, because I do want to be, like, honest about shit, because this is just a stream that I talk about a very vulnerable part of me, but I'm also just like, I kind of like my privacy too. So I'm gonna be a little bit selective about what goes on the internet, because I think privacy, is kind of dead, but you try to keep it alive where you can. But I thankfully wasn't really bullied that much in high school, which was a pretty rare experience. I got made fun of like my voice, and there's like sometimes there are like offhanded like racist jokes, but which like I don't want to dismiss as like, oh, it wasn't that bad, because it was annoying, but it didn't like bring my mood down exponentially. Honestly, I didn't register it most of the time because I'm just like, I'm going to like a predominantly white school, like I shouldn't be like too surprised, I guess. that's sad. That's kind of dark, but I it wasn't until like I came out that I like started feeling a little bit differently about the world around me, I guess. I think I was already kind of aware of like being being Asian, being Vietnamese, being somebody that's like not from here and it was literally like born in another country, was already kind of like not a weird experience, but people definitely, not everybody obviously, like I would say that's like kind of the minority of people, but like you do become aware of like how different your story is, and sometimes you remember it and look at it in like oh, this is like a unique cool kind of light, and other times you're just like, I do not want to be perceived for this. I just want to like exist. I don't want my my personhood to be some kind of like political statement or just some kind of like cool person you get to have around. So I was already aware of that, but I was managing it decently well. It wasn't until I came out that I'm just like, oh, well, juggling both of these, which I shouldn't have to do, obviously. But being in like a predominantly white, predominantly cis, predominantly het environment, you're like, oh, okay, well, I mean, we're throwing out all the PC terms right now, I guess, but you become very aware of how different you are, and you have to kind of remind yourself that you're not weird for that, which I would say that I was like at least okay with doing for like the last leg of high school. But I think college was like, that's when I definitely was becoming more politically plugged in, I guess. That's also when I was like on social media, which I think was probably a good time for me to hop in anyway. I know a lot of people were like, I knew friends that were like on, they're on their MySpace wave in elementary school. I completely missed out on social media for the majority of public school. I got a Facebook like at the very end of my junior year. That's how I came out to my friends, actually. everyone is it wasn't even like in my mind it wasn't even coming out. It was just like you know how you can like put your romantic preferences or your romantic or sexual preferences. It doesn't really, I mean, it doesn't really distinguish on there. That'd be giving Facebook a little bit too much credit for understanding the difference between the two. But I was just like, I like dudes, so I'm gonna put that there because I was always very aware of that, and I didn't really feel like there was anything wrong with it at the time. And then literally 2 seconds later, like I got a friend request from somebody I grew up with, and her message was like, "Oh my god, I didn't know you were gay," which I always will think is very funny because I thought it was kind of obvious that I was gay because I clearly did not have any crushes on um, any of like my gal pals or like any girl period. I didn't really have a lot of like girl crushes that weren't like in the celeb space of what I would eventually know as just like just being like a stan. um and that'd be less of like a girl crush and more of like um a claim us mother kind of deal. That's such a weird way to put it, but I don't know how else to describe it. um but, so I thought it was obvious on top of the fact that like my voice is like, you know, it was kind of obvious. I think some people caught on to it, but I was surprised by how many people didn't. Um, and like, boy, did people treat start treating me a little bit differently after I came out. Which is so funny because like the status quo for me, like when you really think about it, didn't change. I only dated one guy, um, in high school, and he sucked. But I mean, I was a nightmare too. But you know, at least I didn't cheat on I didn't cheat on him. But um, that was basically it. Like it's like I wasn't really involved with a lot of student organizations. I didn't really talk about sort of the political side of things. I wasn't really trying to be an educator for anybody because I definitely was like I was very fringe when it came to being able to talk about queer topics, let alone like intersectionality, which is a thing that I did not learn until like my senior year. And even then, it's like obviously, you know, you learn every day about experiences that are not your own, and how you can be better about how you interact with everybody around you, and to just be more thoughtful, I guess. Just like, oh, if there's any takeaway that you get from any of my streams where I get on a soapbox or something, it's just be more thoughtful, I guess. You'd be surprised at how far that kind of goes in this world. That feels like kind of grim as well, but it's whatever. This is a fun night. I don't have a ton plans. I know that's like not a great way to start off like a stream when I'm feasibly going to be talking about this for at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half longer. Um, but I don't know. It's just like uh, it's kind of hard to prepare for this kind of thing. It's really just like I wanted to be in like a festive mood for myself, I guess. Oh, but I didn't pour myself a drink though. I might do that. I might do that during my break. I'll pour myself like a little drink, um, just to like treat myself. I barely drink. I used to be like a little bit more out and about, but that was pre-pandemic, and I'm scared to go to a bar. So, and then I never picked up drinking at home, so or like in the privacy of my own home or with smaller groups. Not that people haven't offered to me, but I just don't drink that much anymore. Um, but I do have some tequila around the house. I do have some vodka. I have no idea what I'm gonna make. It's probably gonna be something really bad, but it's whatever. Um, what else? Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to be like I just wanted to be in a mood. I'm kind of like tired. It's been kind of rainy all day, and I had some doctor appointments that I had to get out of the way, which is kind of boring. I know that's like not an interesting thing for me to share, but I had like kind of a rough day yesterday. But my boyfriend came in to save the day near the end because he knew I was struggling a bit. He stayed over in the middle of the week, which is not something that we normally do. And that was very sweet, and I'm really glad that the 25-year-old me has somebody who's like so supportive, and I don't know, somebody who loves me, I guess. Not that I don't have people who love me already, but 18-year-old me. Well, I guess I was 17 when I came out, technically. Yikes. God, I was such a baby. But little baby gay would have loved to have known that that the guy he was dating in high school, very very briefly, it basically didn't even count as an ex, honestly. Was like not going to be the person you ended up with, and you knew that at the time too, but you didn't care because you wanted the company. Oh my god, it was, it's so fucking cringe. So they had us like write a letter to ourselves in like senior year, and then they mail you it, I guess 4 or 5 years later. Like the assumption is that you went to college right after high school, and you get to sort of like get a little note from younger self, and I was just like, I want my letter to age like milk. I'm just gonna like manifest a ton of dumb shit. I'm gonna say that like my crush likes me, who is like not my partner at the time, and I'm just gonna roll with it. And then I remember most of what I put in my letter. A lot of it was relationship oriented because I'm really fucking boring, and I was very, with a lack of a better word, I was like pretty boy crazy. I'd say I probably am still a little bit boy crazy, but yeah. So I remember most of what I put in it, which is good because I didn't get mine. Everybody else got theirs, but I don't know where mine went. Well, I think everybody else did. Maybe my sister didn't, but all my other friends did. I'm just like, wow, I want to see how bad my handwriting has gotten since then, because I used to have amazing penmanship, but I think when you're kind of like out of practice because you're typing a lot of stuff in college, as opposed to writing on things, you're just kind of like you're slowly, your penmanship starts to go away a little bit. um but yeah, I think it was like a lot of there was a lot of relationship stuff, a lot of crushes, a lot of like, who are you going to be dating in like 5 years, and not like, oh, what are you doing, like, where do you live, what did you study, because at the time I was still kind of like figuring stuff out. I was like the honor student of our class, and who didn't know what the fuck he was doing, which I think was honest. I'm glad I was honest about it, because I know some of the stuff that I was like, I entered college. We're just gonna be all over the place tonight. When I entered college, I was actually studying communications technology and radio, and I remember when I told my my band teacher that, she was just like, "Oh, you don't think you could like do better?" And I'm like, "Well, that's that's not reassuring, but thank you for sharing your input." But it's like I just knew that I needed something. I didn't want to go in undeclared, but I knew I was essentially undeclared. And then I switched to audio engineering, which was definitely a smart move, I think, because I ended up learning a ton of stuff, and I also learned that I did not want to stay in school. So I left early. I decided that a lot of the stuff I could learn when it came to audio engineering, at least for what I wanted to do, I could just learn for free. I don't need to spend thousands of dollars a year and throw myself into debt just to learn stuff that I could figure out on my own, which I think has been mostly true. There's some stuff that I'm still not an expert at. Like if you threw me in front of like an analog soundboard or whatever, and I would probably know what to do. But when it comes to figuring out like, being able to hear if there's something wrong with like a studio monitor, or being able to make sure a certain frequency isn't being fizzled out or something, I'm not I'm not the greatest at it. I mean, like oh my god, we had to do this like fucking exercise all the time in college. Where you have to just listen to white noise, and like the idea is like it's training you to hear certain frequencies, and I was not good at it. I did not do very well in that class. I did well on all of like the physics based stuff for that class, but when it came to when it came to doing like the hearing tests, I was like a fucking idiot. Um, but it's okay because I haven't had to do that since. And if I ever have to with my own music, which I assume I probably will have to, I will just send it to somebody who has finished the degree, and they can do it for me, and I will pay them. But when it comes to like setting up a mic or knowing what a soundboard does, or how to do some like light mixing and stuff, like I can do that, I guess. So I learned something in college. Um, I also got to like I also ended up okay. Do we want to talk about? I'm gonna reroute it to queer stuff. To anybody who's like interested. Um, I'm gonna be honest. So college was definitely like the baby's first woke kind of era for me. I was like becoming a lot more socially conscious about certain things, and I definitely started getting more intellectually curious about sort of queer history and queer topics, like in college, specifically after. I mean, I hate. I'm hoping this isn't like triggering to anybody, but like the Pulse shooting was the like why I went to like Pride for the first time, because I was not interested in it before. I'm just like, it's a lot of sweaty people outside. I'm agoraphobic as shit. I wouldn't know anybody, and it just didn't seem like fun. But like, but that year I knew that I had to go, and I wanted to be around, other people, and it's so wild because there weren't really a lot of openly queer people at my school, or at least that I knew about. If I mean, a lot of them were underclassmen, and I just didn't like talk to them because I was that senior. Um, and so I didn't really have a lot of openly queer friends growing up. That was something that definitely came more during college, but then even in college, I didn't really know a lot of people like on campus, which is why I went to like uh so we don't call it a GSA anymore, because, and I'm glad we don't, because that is incredibly exclusionary of trans, non-binary, and asexual people, as well as just tons of queer identities like in general. When you do gay straight alliance and then like expect the entire queer umbrella to fit under that, it's like maybe it's like not a good name. But at our school we had Q&A. It was like queer and allies. um I went to one meeting just to see like who else was like, it's like, hey, where are the gays on campus? Like it wasn't like in a like, oh, I'm looking for somebody to date kind of vibe, because at that point I was already in a relationship with somebody at a nearby school. But but I just wanted to see like who was around, and I wanted to see I wanted to see if there were like any kind of queer events I could get involved on campus. And it it was different than what I expected, and I didn't go back because I was a little put off at the time. I'm sort of constantly talking with myself about how much of that was like related to maybe some residual internalized homophobia, and how much of it was just, it wasn't really my vibe. I thought it was, so I didn't realize it was going to be like a support group kind of like situation. I thought it was more like, hey, we're this is like a student queer union on campus. Like, you know, we could like talk about queer topics like here. We can educate each other on stuff, which I did learn a lot during that first meeting because they had a whole um they had a whole presentation that was like about like pronouns and neopronouns and which was stuff that like, yeah, obviously I knew what pronouns were, but I had no idea what neopronouns were at the time, that like my freshman year of college, after going to, again, a very small town, very small high school. I just like was not aware of that stuff, so that part was cool. um and then like as soon as the presentation was over and I thought we were going to be talking about like organizing some events on campus or something, it turned into a little bit of a trauma dump. And I'm like, I don't know that I can do this on a week to week basis. Like I obviously feel for everybody here. I think that like is like part of what made it like difficult, was that I really was feeling it like a lot. um I'm an empath, so I can't be around this kind of negative energy right now because it's draining. um no, but I mean, kind of, I don't know. um but but I like to think that a lot of them mellowed out by now. No, I am friends with a couple of them now, but it was like, ironically, it's like the ones that were there as allies and then they came out after college. Uh, I will say my first queer experience on campus, since we're just going to be talking about university life, I guess, because this is just where my brain is at. So it was on do we say orientation night? I don't know what it was called. It was like the first night for like all like the freshmen there. We'd done all of our like our Title IX stuff. We'd done like the drug and alcohol seminar and like the theater, and then after that it's just like, okay, we're gonna do like a ton of like fun activities in in one of like the halls. And I was like, look, I wasn't like, despite how boy crazy I wasn't really looking to date immediately. I was like sort of already flirting with like somebody from like my hometown at the beginning of my freshman year, but I still wanted to see like who was around. And on that very first night, two of the organizers, that were like from like the company that they were like working through, we're looking for a third. And I'm just like, this is a lot. I appreciate them reaching out regardless. I was very flattered, but I was also a little bit uncomfortable for like the rest of the night, even though I never felt like I was in danger. And I'm sure they were like cool and respectful, and because they didn't really like harass me after I just like didn't respond. But I'm just like, okay, we're having this is baby's first grinder moment. Which also, that isn't even true, because I had talked with people like over the summer. I knew that I was not interested in like sex or relationships for like basically the entirety of my high school career. But I was starting to be like a little bit curious about stuff like after I graduated, without getting like too TMI or anything. So like I did download Grindr. It was the worst mistake of my life, and my entire worldview has been forever shifted because of it. I have never I have never hated men so much in my life, until I downloaded that app. Ironically, okay, I don't want this to be like a tell or anything, because I know there's like the stereotype of just like the, oh, you know, in the gay community, um you just like sleep with like all of your friends or whatever, like you meet them like on Grindr, so that means that there's always going to be the expectation there. And just like, no, okay, I'll be real. The majority of like the queer friends that I have now, like I met on Grindr. There was like never any like tension there. It was never like a will they won't they kind of deal. It was never like like, so are we gonna hook up or not, or so no head like kind of deal. It just like it's like I didn't have any other way to meet queer people around me, especially queer guys. especially non-white queer guys. Because it was like because the gay guys that were on campus, at least like the openly gay ones, like it was like a lot of white guys, and like obviously no shade on white gays. um just, you know, don't be problematic, don't be like a demon twink on Twitter, and like we'll be, you know, we're cool. But I feel like I'm digging myself into like a grave with that statement. I hope nobody like, you know, I don't know. I'm not gonna talk shit about white gays today because that's something for Twitter to do. Um, at not Sean or Sean, my socials are in my in the description. Um, I may or may not comment on that kind of thing a lot, but I will not do that on stream. Unless we're talking about like racism in the gay community, which I do want to talk about later. But let's talk about me more though. Um, just for a little bit, because I don't spend a lot of time liking myself, so and wanting to talk about me. That's not true. Um, I also shouldn't say that. That probably sounds more concerning than it actually is. Um, Sorry, just quick scrolling through a couple of notifications. I was dropping frames earlier. It was very bad. My playlist was not having a good time, but it seems like things are going. I hope. Let me know how the audio levels are. By the way, um, we love the self love. Of course, self love is the best kind of love. I'm debatable. Um, was that a toxic take? I don't know. But welcome on in. Hello, Wacky Crafter. Um, let's see, where was I on my gay little tour uh, of my baby years in college? Oh yeah, no, it's funny. I had like predominantly female friends all the way growing up through you know, elementary school through high school, and now I think the majority of my friends are actually like other gay guys. Um, which is fine. I mean, I'm hoping that's not like as long as it doesn't stem out into like I still have female friends, okay? Like I, you know, let's not whip out the Bechdel test, all right? I swear I'm not a misogynist. Um, oh God, that'd be. You know what? Okay, hot take. Well, actually, no. This is even a hot take because this is just my own personal experience. I feel like the most sexist men I know are like actually gay men. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. I feel like there's like a lot of queer men think that from sort of deviating from what's considered typically typical masculinity, that they're already subverting masculinity enough to where like they can never be misogynistic, and I'm just like, no, 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 no. I've seen you be inappropriately close to women you don't know, being a little bit too familiar, and then thinking just like, oh well, it's not predatory because I'm gay, like I don't get anything out of it. And she's like, oh, well, you still made them like uncomfortable, and it's still weird. So um and I feel like I see that a lot, and I hate saying that. I hate like associating like any kind of like creepy or like predatory behavior to queer men, because society loves to pin a lot of those kinds of stereotypes on us already. But it's just like at the end of the day, it's just like um just because you're like a gay guy doesn't mean you're fully incapable of being like a shitty guy on top of all of it, you know. I think more people need to recognize that within themselves and examine their own misogyny, I guess. um because I do think that there's like a lot of projection that can like happen whether you realize it or not. If you're like dealing with like internalized homophobia, ultimately that does stem from a level of misogyny, if not like the root of it is in a way misogyny. um which I know there are plenty of debates about like whether homophobia is like at its root misogyny, whether transphobia at its like deepest roots like is like stemming off of misogyny. I'm not going to be like the end all be all of like what is or isn't. I'm not qualified to talk about that at all, but I just wanted to like pose it out there into the universe that these discussions are happening. Um and I love that. We love examining our own biases and shortcomings as people as we grow, and owning up to maybe any sort of weaknesses or blind spots we might have. This got so preachy so quickly. I don't even know how. um Excuse me, sorry. I'm like, I took like a little bit of a nap this afternoon. I've been kind of running around for a lot of the day. Um, and I kind of got like a mixed amount of sleep last night, but I'm feeling more awake now at 10:30 p.m. on a Thursday night. It's definitely the thing you want. Um, it's something that I've this is a, like another side tangent. This is a thing that I've been like thinking about is like is my current streaming schedule like good good for me. If I'm ending at midnight every night and then I'm like editing until like 1:30 or 2 a.m., I'm like, is this sustainable or should I make some changes? So I don't know if I'm gonna be changing my hours or not. Right now I stream Mondays, Thursdays, and sometimes Fridays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. Gotta throw that little plug in because I forgot to do it in the beginning. But but I don't know. It's like I could move to earlier, but I know that at the same time I like having like a little bit of a buffer between when I sort of finish things up dinner wise and then sort of moving forward. You don't care about this information. I talk about there's gonna be like changes, and then like I never follow through with them. I'm just gonna like stick to my habit of streaming around this time. um but we have a we have a not great sleep schedule as is because we are very not well no, I'll say it, we are mentally ill. I mean, this isn't a surprise. I did a whole like mental health stream like a while ago, and it's it's hard to like it's hard to be queer and like not have some level of mental damage in some areas, whether or not you like experienced like earth-shattering queer phobia in your life or not. There's still like a level of like universal trauma. I feel like lots of gay people, trans people, queer people in general like experience just from being online. Ooh, that's what. Okay, so I don't think it's gonna happen. I'm not manifesting it happening. But if this is the night, if this is the like the time I get hate rated, I'm gonna be very sad. But at the same time, like I'm like more prepared than I would. I'm working my way up to like sort of build up my defenses, but I will probably be fine. I kind of just like exist in like a tiny little corner on the internet, but I don't know. I just like I'm getting so paranoid recently because of like how many other people are getting hate rated during Pride Month, which I'm not surprised by, but I'm just like, oh my god, like they're going after the smaller streamers. Like, am I next? And it's like, no, you're fine. You have like you have like 20 followers. You're good. Um, and honestly, me getting follow botted just brings me to the 50 follower account I need to work towards being an affiliate. So, what you mean? I'm fine. I love that you're fine. Also, hi bestie. Welcome on in. Um, I'm great too. My sleep schedule isn't absolute dog shit, and my skin is definitely not terrible from the amount of tension I feel all the time. Um, no, but like it is kind of It is something that I didn't really consider, I guess. I mean, like, so a support system is like always important, period, for like anybody who's like navigating life. But I think definitely for like queer people, there's like an added layer of like it is nice to have people that are in like the same boat as you, or at least similar boats. Um, because as much as I love, my cishet friends, I mean, obviously I do. Like, I'm not, I'm not gatekeeping my friendship here. Like, you have to be this gay to, um, to hang with me. No, it's not like that. But it's like, the queer friends and are going to be able to talk about certain things with you, better than like non-queer friends. And I didn't realize, because I did have like a pretty strong support system like overall through like high school and college, I think. um but I didn't realize that I was really lacking other like gay friends or just queer friends in general, until I started hanging out with with them more. And I'm just like, oh shit, like, hey, maybe this thing that should have been very obvious is like becoming more apparent to me now. Obviously, it doesn't mean that you only have to congregate with like other people that are in your experience, because that doesn't help you grow either. Um, but like, look, we don't really have like a strong, like, a strong queer community where I live. Well, actually, that's not true. We have like a lot of lesbians in the part of the state that I live, but as far as like gay men are concerned, it's just like if you're not from one of the nearby colleges, which just means that you're out of state, you're probably like older than 50, which, like, more power to you, but I'm not interested in that. Unless you want to give me money, then my DMs are open. But I think it's been cool to sort of see the makeup of um my inner circle sort of becoming more, I don't want to say becoming more diverse, because that makes me sound like I'm like trying to fill like a gross diversity quota or something. I'm not trying to be like cringe about it, but it's like, I'm not gonna pretend that there wasn't like a little bit of like homogeny um with who I used to roll with, just because that was the nature of the experience I grew up around. Um, and like when you're not on the internet, like I was basically not on the internet until my senior year of high school. Like, you are kind of isolated from those kinds of communities and those experiences for a good portion of your life, which, like, it does mean that. Oh, okay. So wow, adding in tokens, are we? Yeah, I know. I'm collecting queer identities, like Pokemon. I want to have like a full set. um, but no, it's I don't know why I said that. That's because it's such a stupid comment. But fuck, I just lost my train of thought. Um, fuck, what was I saying? You threw me off, Minecrafter. How dare you? Um, oh, fine, but I get to be Umbreon. Um, that's fine. I just want to be the pink one, so I'm cool with being Sylveon. Um, oh my god, you really derailed me. I'm like completely thrown. Uh, um, shit. Also, sorry. I have like the doors on my house are very loud. The ultimate hate rate distraction. That's what's sad. That's like No, you're fine, you're fine. It comes with the territory of being incredibly ADHD, um, and then sleep deprived on top of it. um, I guess well, until I remember um what the fuck I was talking about. I think I know I was like talking about like, diversifying like your friend group, learning from new experiences. But until I figure out exactly what I'm talking about, I have like a question for everybody in chat. If you have, it doesn't have to be your all-time favorite. You're about to go further into evolution of your friend group and your whole baby gay face. Okay, thank you, Simpletons. um, yes, my baby gay face. Um, but while I reroute though, I would love to talk about if you have, again, doesn't have to be your all-time favorite. But there's like a gay queer kind of, I don't want to say just say gay because it's like um because there's it's it's a whole umbrella. There's lots of people on here, everybody can come chill. That there's a queer piece of media, whether it's like a TV show or like a movie that you really love right now. I am constantly looking for recommendations, and like Hulu's Pride section has been kind of slipping this year, not really getting anything good. Netflix has been kind of, my algorithm's just like not good, so just throw shit my way. I did watch Heartstopper. I guess I can finally talk about Heartstopper tonight because I keep saying that I'm going to and then I just don't. But I guess I can talk about that tonight. I have seen that. um I just watched Crush on Hulu. Super cute movie. um just joined in. Did you already mention your coming out story? I talked about what I wanted to talk about with it. um no, I mean, like, I sort of, I briefly touched on it like at the beginning because it's just like, um as much as I'm like, oh, I'm celebrating 8 years of being out, my coming out experience was like kind of like, it wasn't bad. It was a little rocky. But we got we got there by the end. I don't want to get like super dark into it or whatever because it's sort of just like a very private thing in that sense. But things are good now. I have lots of people in my life who love me. I'm closer to my family now more than ever, I feel anyway. I'm in a great non-toxic relationship, so we, wins all around. My mental health may be deteriorating, but it is not attributed to to any of those, I guess. um that's good. Things have changed for the better, absolutely. I don't want to trauma dump on like on people, I guess, of that. um uh Love Victor season 3 is going to be so disappointing. I've actually never watched any of Love Victor, to be honest. I've heard like kind of things all over the spectrum with it. I kind of just like I have like weird feelings about like I mean, like, I'm always going to be kind of critical of like, non queer actors playing queer characters. um it's one thing if it's supporting characters, because then it's just like, okay, like if they're only gonna get a couple of lines anyway and they're not like incredibly stereotypical, then I guess I can let it slide. But when it's a main role, I'm kind of just like, that could have gone to so many people. Trauma bonding though, when one day I might feel better about it. Right now I'm kind of just like, I'm in a good space. I don't need to like sort of talk about that part, especially because like, it definitely, I feel weird sharing because like it definitely could have, I know this isn't like, my therapist would not love me saying it like this, but it's just like, it could have been worse. Like, it definitely like, it wasn't me getting like thrown out of the house, it wasn't me getting like physically abused or anything, thankfully. If you're sort of going through that stuff right now, if you're somehow, this video has gone into your algorithm, or you've just decided to tune into the stream or whatever, and you're going through this shit. I hate to say the really stereotypical thing, but it does get better. um, it is just about finding your own tribe and finding your found family, and it's nice if your actual family gets to be involved in it too. I'm really fortunate to have my family be, or my immediate family be a part of it. We don't have to talk about my extended family or my relatives that live on the other side of the country, because that's a yikes. But but everything else is just like, it's just about finding like the right people around you. And um I kind of like, ooh, if I have any advice for like a young, like insecure gay person out there, when it comes to sort of finding your tribe and finding people that will like accept you, that are like also within the same community, don't feel pressured to for there to be anything more than like a friendship with somebody. Because there are people, because people be kind of shitty about like, and like leverage like sex over like their availability to you as if it's like a transactional experience. And like those, I just want to say those people aren't worth keeping around. Like if somebody's just like, I'm gonna stop hanging out with you unless you suck my dick, like throw them away, they're toxic. Which might sound like a very outlandish scenario, but like, honestly, I know so many people that have been pressured into like entering relationships with people just because like that was like the only gay person that would talk to them. And that's and I don't I want better for you. Ooh, favorite gay films or cinema? Yes, please share. I'm in desperate need because my algorithm is slacking. Um, Problematic extended relatives, they can be too much sometimes. They really can. It's I like sometimes it's okay. Well, I'm actually interested to know how everybody sort of feels about the having sort of being forced to take on the role in a lot of circumstances of being the educator for people. Like, do you feel like that's a responsibility that you have, or is that sort of like unfair? I mean, I think it is. Objectively, I do. I personally think it's like unfair. But is it like unfair to the point where like you don't engage with it at all, or are there certain relationships where you really feel like, okay, like if I want to salvage this relationship with somebody, and I'm willing to put in like the effort, then like I have to take on this role. Like, what are sort of your boundaries with that? I guess I think that's like I feel like that's a fair question. I guess I'm hoping that's like not a deep cut for anybody. Um, there are some people that I am willing to stick my neck out for when it comes to helping educate them about queer topics if they've been sort of not super receptive in the past. But I also feel like I have a pretty low tolerance for intolerance. So if somebody's like, it's one thing if like somebody's just like struggling to like, you know, remember what neopronouns are, or like remember to use like my proper like he they, like recognize that I can be both and I don't owe you androgyny or anything. um like it's okay if like somebody struggles like a little bit, but if like somebody's like reacting like very negatively to being corrected, then it's just like, okay, that's it. Like you would, an actual teacher would not let you throw this much of like a fit for not understanding something in their class. um you come back to me when you are ready, but don't be mad at me for like kind of preserving my own peace. um when it comes to like, because I'm not always in the like a mentally good space to be that educator. Not sure if there's a point if they aren't showing a willingness to get closer with me. Absolutely, it's unfair, but it's hard not to engage with it when you have to manage a racial narrative and LGBT narrative as one person. Yeah, intersectionality is fun like that, right? It is, no, but it is really difficult. And it's, oh, you know what is like the what's something that's like very very frustrating that I've only had to deal with um interpersonally. This has like only happened once or twice, but and I cut them off pretty quickly. But like as far as like people that I know or people that are like around, like I feel like I do we all know what chasers are? I am so frustrated with the amount of chasers that are in my area. I feel like they're growing because like the last time I was on app, granted that was it was a really long time ago. But the last time I was like on apps, like there's just people are really like mask off, just fetishizing like trans people left and right. Um, and like it has really like I'll be talking to somebody I think that they're like really yeah I think that they're like really chill. I like their vibe. I think they're hot. We might hang out, and the second they start using like the wrong terms, like use like a very outdated term for somebody who's trans, or says anything remotely like that they're like a chaser, I'm just like bye, thank you, next. Yeah, racialized fetishization is a thing too. Yeah, can't be black and not meet a couple chocolate chasers. Oh, girl. Oh, that's so cringe. Yeah, no, my partner has told me some stories. I thankfully I only have like two or three. I had like one where somebody wanted to dress me up in like a schoolgirl uniform and like wanted me to like there was like a race play element to it, and obviously they got blocked immediately. I think that was like the worst of it though, and then it's just kind of just like people saying it's like I love Asians. I'm just like thanks. Do you want me to congratulate you or like do you want a medal? I have a strong reaction to anything near the phrase jungle fever. Oh my god, jungle fever and yellow fever. I'm I'm crying. Um, BBC, I'm crying. I'm crying with you. Um, loathsome intellectual. I'm crying with you. That it is. I hear from my friends who discuss this, and it does not sound fun. Um, it is also incredibly cringe to still be saying that kind of shit in 2022, but at the same time, then it's just like it's like a lot of like it's so wild that a lot of people's like first experience with like a person of color is going to be through porn. Like isn't that like weird to think about when we look at like how sort of closed off or how like huddled together certain communities can be um when it comes to just kind of associating with each other. Like if you're like I feel like we shouldn't have to say that in like 2022 that like for that there are going to be people who only see people of color as like a sexual like commodity or something, or like they're like a buffet. I did actually did like a my I did like a final report in college that was like about like racism and like gay dating. um and it's god, it's so wild. Not shocking if you live in an insular community. Very true. I've, it's especially awkward if you experience it amongst people of your specific race. I've navigated awkward conversations of having gay black men expect me to code switch to give trade, even if it's not within my personality. Oh my god, yeah. Um, it's like racial fetishization overlapped into the illusion of masculinity. Yeah, it's so if you feel comfortable with sharing with chat about like what trade is. I don't really want to speak over there if anybody who is like more qualified to talk about um DL trade and everything like that. I don't want to I don't want to talk over people who are going to be better at explaining that specific experience with me. I can speak to code switching, but for those like specific um terms and phrases, I feel very uncomfortable when I have like I see like a white gay describe like another white guy as like trade. When like I know like the origins are so hyper specific to black and brown communities. Um, I mean, everyone's definition of trait is different, right? I mean, yeah, but again, only if you feel comfortable. I don't want to be like, oh, so like, so trait is like this, as if I'm like the absolute resource of that kind of thing. I think the universal generalization is something like straight passing or masculine. Yeah, basically. At least that's like the impression that I get. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of like in the I end up being in a little bit of like the reverse realm of that, where I'm usually expected to be like more feminine, and it just comes from like I mean, like the long-standing stereotyping of Asian men being submissive and being emasculated through years of propaganda, like literally hundreds of years of propaganda, and just like narratives about and sexual stereotypes too. It's just like so like I'm kind of like in like the um I'm in the realm of like if I'm not like femme enough or something, or I'm like not twink enough, then it's just like oh like you're just like a you're just like a regular white twink. I'm just like that doesn't make any sense, dude. I'm very clearly not white. I wasn't white to you like 10 minutes ago when you were saying that you love Asians, but whatever. I've heard that sometimes Asian men are treated in the opposite ways stereotypically compared to black men, so that's very interesting to hear. Yeah, it's an interesting I mean it's just like based in like sex stereotypes and like perceptions of like um portrayals of like black men in media being like quote unquote naturally aggressive and just like very racist tropes versus the racist tropes of like Asian men, which is like being very emasculated and like very prim and prudish when it comes to sex. I mean, oh my god, anytime somebody talks about the Japanese people as if they as if they can make like a massive sweeping statement about their culture and their like their own perceptions on sex is very it's very cringe to me. I know there god some people just suddenly felt very comfortable sharing their views on like Japanese sexuality the moment that I got back from living overseas, mostly because like I'm gay. I as much as I love Japan, the not fun part about it was like I in a lot of spaces I did have to sort of go back into the closet. I guess we can talk about that. That's an experience I feel comfortable talking about. But it like you know there are definitely discussions to be had about you know like queer phobia in like spaces and like how like the youth culture is changing. I mean, the youth culture has changed like quite a bit in Japan overall to be I believe is a lot more accepting. I didn't really have any problems with like younger people when it came to being around my boyfriend at the time. Um, but when I looked at like sort of the older side of gay men in the city that I was living in and sort of like the very limited and like kind of small circles they all like ran in because like there's just very few out people and sort of how people would be meeting in private in some of these like hole in the wall gay bars. It was very different from where I live, despite the fact that like we probably still have like the same amount of openly gay people, um, because we're both just kind of like overall like we'd be considered rural communities. I still think where I was living in Japan was like more urban than like where I live, but for all intents and purposes, they are kind of both in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. So they are sort of there is like a little bit of a time capsule quality to it when it comes to broader social change, if that makes any sense. It's frustrating because non-POC gays seem to be in this mysterious mirrorless universe where their race doesn't come into play with people's assumptions of them. I genuinely can't imagine what it's like having a gay-related experience where my race doesn't inevitably come up. It gets complicated when I talk to people overseas because it feels like I'm explaining to a German man how being black, being gay, and also being American is not all encompassing my personality. Absolutely true, 100%. Um, I guess that more or less conforms to urban, rural, social views in all countries. I mean, yeah, true, very true. It is like sort of like it is kind of like a common experience when it comes to how sort of how cultures um specifically like sort of social and like youth cultures develop in certain spaces and like in certain regions. um and overwhelmingly like you will see a lot of sort of more progressiveness in areas that are more densely populated, that are more like cities, because like I mean there's like a number of reasons why, but it does stem a lot from like you're going to be interacting with these people every day. You know, you might as well see that. You might as well accept the fact that like this is normal. Don't be weird about it and like move on with your life because they're genuinely not hurting anybody. But yeah, no, it's but it's so wild when like suddenly people were super open about being like, oh yeah, that must be like so weird being like, you know, when you're somebody who's like so sex positive and like sexually progressive, to be like in such like a prude and sexless society. It's just like, okay, well, we're gonna slow down on like the the racism there. Whether you realize it or not, that is a very problematic statement. um and a, a massive misread of of like Japanese culture. um it's like you like, yes, you can look at like the government stance on queerness and sort of get a view, like a sort of a feel of what the attitudes are like with that. But at the same time, it's like, you know, a country's laws aren't going to ultimately like are not going to dictate what the general mass might feel about a certain topic. Because because a lot of times the laws are decided by very small, very dwindling part of a community that will not be here in 20 years. And they are sharing more and more conservative views as they get older, because they're like facing the mortality and they're realizing that the world is changing around them faster than they expected. So when you try to like look at, you know, things like that, and project it onto an entire nation of people where like surprise surprise, like there are queer people in like in Japan, no shit, that shouldn't be like a surprise. But there's some people, they're just like, oh my god, that must be have been like such an alienating experience, and like it must be like going into another world entirely. And I'm just like, okay, we this has stopped being a productive conversation. um but I digress. That is like a whole there's another example of Sean taking any excuse to talk about living abroad because that's the only interesting thing he's ever done with his life. That's not true, but it is one of the more interesting things. But yeah, so I don't know. It's frustrating when like when you do deal with this kind of bullshit in your own community. Um Especially when it's like, you know, mirroring sort of the conversation point that I brought up earlier about how like it feels like a lot of like the gay men I know are actually the most misogynist people I know, but because they feel like they're in like, but they're defying masculine norms or whatever, and like, you know, heteronormativity, that like they are excused from the conversation about misogyny. I feel like it's this isn't a hot take to say that like that extends out to other topics as well, because like because like just because you're like in a marginalized community like as a gay man like does not mean that you are excused from dialogues about race, about gender, about ableism, about like mental health, or about fat phobia, about like literally anything, like you still have to be accountable for your views. Just because you might have potentially like a tragic backstory that could like explain why you were more defensive when it comes to certain things, that's it's one thing to acknowledge those experiences that have like shaped maybe more problematic views. It's another thing to just like be like, well, I have queer trauma, so that means I'm going to live my best life, and not care about the people around me because that's what I deserve after years of trauma. I like to think that this isn't the most common experience, but at the same time, it feels like every time I log on Twitter, there's at least one really, really, really bad take that somebody has, and it's like it's coming from like a pretty, without getting too spicy about it, there is like a common demographic. But that's all I will say. um it's just like, look, we're all in the same boat. Let's not be dicks to each other. Capiche? I feel like that's not that god. It shouldn't be that complicated. But when people think that they can like sort of excuse themselves from conversations about things, and that they don't have to do any like self work when it comes to examining your own blind spots. Granted, like, I totally recognize that I have blind spots. There are things that like I'm still learning every day, um, when talking about things, um, but like if you're like, oh, I don't see color, but then 5 minutes later you like are gonna say some racist shit on a dating app, like you don't like. I'm first of all, I'm not gonna reward you for saying I don't see color, because that's a very obtuse way to look at the conversation around race, not just in this country but like in the world. um it's like it's a kind of like a lazy way out of like a actually important conversation for you to be having, that like, as intimidating as it may be, isn't entirely self-lacerating. Like it is okay to be discussing like racism without hating yourself as like as somebody who might come from like a privileged background that is ultimately a product of racism. I don't know. I'm open to making a holy book that says that people that don't look like me are the villain. Oh my god. For white Jesus? Yes. I'll make a gay god named Modestina Yonsei Spears. My brain struggled so hard to read that, even though I knew exactly what you were saying, but we're gonna pretend that I didn't just struggle with that very hard. But you do you, bestie. I 100% support it. Um Sorry, big stretch. Big stretch. I had to like mute my mic for a second. Because I feel like as I'm like 25, I'm already starting to make dad noises. You'll see a really overdrawn holy book soon. Stay tuned. I mean, I will be waiting. Especially because like, oh wait, can I shout you out? Because you stream sometimes. You do like art stuff, and you're like stupidly talented. It's very unfair. Like I doodle, but I'm not like iconic. It'll be legitimately the poorest take on white straight people. Okay, hang on. Let's see if I remember how to do this right. I'll give you a little shout out. Did I do it right? Okay, yes. Thank God. It looks goofy, but it's fine. I don't know why it has like the little greater than thing at the end, but sure, why not? Yeah, I was gonna stream today, but my sleep schedule flipped suddenly. I feel that. That happened to me yesterday. I like, well, kind of. Actually, no, it was very different. I like, my alarm straight up didn't go off, so I slept until noon. I felt very bad about myself afterwards. Because I was just like, today's going to be a productive day. I'm going to be doing so much stuff in my morning. And then, like, I woke up and I thought it's funny because, like, because of how overcast it's been all week, I legitimately thought like it was one of those instances where you wake up really early and that it's just like sunrise, but you've like woken up before your alarm and like you have that like extra like sweet spot of like maybe an hour or two before you actually have to get up. And I look at my phone and it's like noon and I'm like, oh fuck. Plus I had too many unstreamable projects that Twitch TOS would not be okay with. Oh facts. Because you're on that like not safe for work shit. Um which I love for you, and I wish I could like I can't even draw somebody like with clothes on, so like more power to you for being able to do way more than that. Um Yep, I'm on that not safe for work coin, so I'm making bank on occasion. That's where the money's at. I feel like anyway. Secure the bag. um the gays need someone to put them in porn. Oh my god. I was about to say, can you commission me? But I'm just like, no, that'd be creepy. Well, not creepy, but like, that might be a weird thing for me to ask, and also it's like not genuinely what I want. I don't know why my brain was like, let's say that out loud. We're gonna edit that out later. That's kidding. And I have pencil and a lot of time in my hands. I love that for you. I have a very messy sketch pad somewhere where I draw eyes a million times and then like give up after not being able to match somebody's eyebrows. It's like kind of like that's like my middle school ass energy. It was just drawing like anime eyes in uh my notebooks all the time. um Speaking of which though, like for like anime shit, I think interestingly enough, I feel like the first time that I saw queerness sort of in any show, it probably was in anime, but it was like really subtle. I think I don't even remember what it was like in. I think like I feel like anime and manga have been like queer coding for like literally the longest time because of like censorship laws. And just like write it, trying to like write around sort of like the queerness clauses. Um, but so I'm sure there's plenty of that. Like, honestly, like I mean, just does Naruto count? Does that count? I feel like there's like, you know, they're a little, you know, um, but I think like the first on screen out couple that I'd seen like or like canonically out. Like I don't think that they were actually gay in real life. Sadly was like Secret Life of the American Teenager with like the two guys that wanted to like adopt the main character's baby and they were being like sneaky about it and trying to bribe the dad into getting them like a special word in for like the adoption like process. It was so weird. My first experience of gay experience with anime was probably not gay, like Dragon Ball Z, giving shirtless men and such. Oh yeah, no, for sure. Like I think as far as like thirsting over anime characters is concerned, I'm trying to think of who my first like. I can't really think of like any like animated crush or anime crushes that I had as a kid. From like a looks perspective, I think it was just kind of like the personality usually like appeal to me if they were like very like aloof and very um like bordering on edgy but not quite, like they're just very just very aloof but very cool and like quietly badass. Those characters kind of just like got me. um And it was like, it was never like there was never a clear line between like, is it because like I want to be you, or is it because I want to like be in you, you as a two-dimensional character. I might have reacted to the gay subtext in Fruits Basket or something. Oh my god, I only just started getting into Fruits Basket. I remember my a friend in elementary school was super into it. Um, I never really read it. We had like a manga section in my library in like my elementary school. And that was like one of the few titles they had. And I never got into it because I was too busy like rereading Magic Knight Rayearth over and over again. But like now that I'm like older and I'm like able to like sort of watch the I've mostly been watching the new version. I had a hard time getting into the first anime. But it definitely does seem like something that would be like 100% up my alley. That was like a complete side tangent, but like it just like reminded me of that. I remember the complex ghost feeling of repressing gay thoughts at a young age. There might have been a point where I took the vague attraction as this complex mental game. That's interesting. Wait, what do you mean though? If you feel comfortable elaborating on that, I mean. Obviously you don't have to. But I'm curious. Um, I will say that like I think when I started developing 2D crushes though, it was definitely more in like the bara realm. Like bara titties or like chef's kiss. I don't read a lot of bara though actually. Like I don't honestly I don't read like a lot of um I don't read a lot of erotica or like or pornographic manga. I don't watch a lot of hentai or anything, to be honest. But I appreciate the craft when it's like not like creepy or anything. But like everyone experiences attractions in men, the goal is to push as hard as possible to be attracted to a specific role. So I treated it like it was a playful, focused game. Oh, okay, I see. I see. Oh yeah, I don't read erotica or bara either. Wink. Yeah, we're like a good Christian chat. We don't read porn. We don't even talk about. We don't even know what sex is. Um, we don't learn about sex until marriage, when like an angel descends from like the heavens, during her honeymoon, being like, so this is what happened. This is that's like that's the first time you get the talk. So it's only for making children. So, um, no leaving children in somebody's. But let me stop. Um, I was really bad at taking things seriously, so it sounds like me to turn something uh people take seriously into a mental game for myself. I mean, like that's like a coping mechanism, like in a way. I mean, maybe it's like it wasn't like maybe you don't like perceive it that way. Maybe it's like not actually that way. I know for myself, if I when I do stuff that's kind of like along the lines of that, like for it's like it's easier for me to like process things in that kind of way. But but I haven't really done it so much for that kind of experience, and more like more I mostly do that with like dealing with like my intense social anxiety, especially in like the workplace. It's easier for me to like um break topics down into like or like tasks that I have to do for the day into like a game like structure. I don't know if that's like sad or not, but that is my way of coping with difficulty of being a human being on a daily basis. Like when I was attracted to the shirtless earthbender as an avatar, I took it as a game to try to be attracted to Katara or something. Or crap, Avatar might be the earliest self-aware instance. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, like uh so when we were doing the well, I don't think we were specifically rating the characters like on hotness in Dave's stream with like the avatar tier list, but I was like quietly doing that in the back of my head. I was just like, okay, well, which avatar characters can like get it? And there was a common thread between mine. um, But yes, I do feel I feel like personally as like a very basic gay anyway, that there are a lot of bangable adult characters in Avatar. We're emphasizing that the characters we're thirsting over are of age. And what was that common thread? Bar titties. Um, no, there were like a lot of shirtless guys in that show though, and like because it wasn't like anime, they could show nipples. Scandalous. Oh no, my teacup is so empty, sis. Yeah, no, I was like, I think probably the more I think about it, I think like Avatar was like when that was those were the characters in that show were like probably my 2D crushes of like that era, and I don't know that I had like much more after that. Um, I think I had more video games than like TV shows or anime. I'm trying to think of like what video game ones though are because I'm ready to embarrass myself. You know, let's just thirst after fictional characters, all right? I think I'm glad that that Graves and Twisted Fate are canonized as a couple now because I feel like that would be very hot. I feel like they would have a lot of fun with each other. But like they also hate each other, so it's like it's kind of like a love hate sort of enemies to lovers situation. Which I if you've watched my fan fiction video, you know that's my shit. That is like literally my favorite trope ever. I like mildly edgy guys in video games. Okay, but like, what is your definition of mildly edgy? Because I feel like everybody has different edge tolerances, and that kind of determines where that scale is, I guess. I know I had a few more. There was a show on Jetix about buff sportsmen doing extreme heroic things. I don't. You'll have to. You'll if you remember the name of it, send it to me because we might have that shared memory. I think my attraction to big, sweet, dumb guys kicked in early. I remember Shaolin Showdown clearly because of a specific character, so that probably dates the start. Ooh, I kind of like okay, so I wasn't like into Raimundo, but like I did like his edgy arc. I think characters when they have like a little bit of like a darkness arc that can be kind of fun. Granted, it was like not good, and most of these like going evil arcs are usually bad, or just like not super well written. But like elementary school and middle school me ate that shit up. Raimundo, you hit the nail on the head. Look, I get it. I understand. I understand. Um, just like brooding, I guess. Okay, that's yeah. Um, I like a good brooder. Wait, that sounds weird. Um, anyway, um, or the male lead in Oban Star Racers. Ooh, hang on. Let me Google them because that sounds very familiar. I was kind of into the Fire Bully and Sky High. Oh, you mean War and Peace? Oh yeah, yeah, okay, I remember Oban. Oh my god, that's core memory unlocked. Yes, I'm seeing one guy who's like in mechanics overalls, in just mechanics overalls, and like I understand. I understand. Yeah, no, I remember like, War and Peace is like I know it's such a lame pun, but I kind of love it. I really love that name. But then like he's just fun. And that movie's just fun. I like Sky High. Um yeah, I keep those old repressed feelings in a file in my brain to laugh at later. Wait, what do you mean? I'm not into brooders, thanks. Look, I think we all have a phase where we like guys that are like brooding, but then like we either figure out that that's not fun before we date a brooding person, or we date a brooding person and realize that they're not fun to be around. I sadly was a little late, and I dated a brooder. Yeah. And I just like realized that like, oh yeah, like we can't, both of us can't be mentally ill for this to work, so sorry. Sometimes I think my repression was entirely conscious for most of my young life. I just thought it was too much work to address it. I mean, yeah, brooders are very toxic. I mean, not always. Sometimes somebody who's like comes off as brooding is just quiet. Like maybe they're just quiet, but they have like resting bitch. Like for me, it feels like the male equivalent of resting bitch face is like moody, quiet guy, which like I guess can kind of go into like different realms because he can either be like the dark, edgy kid, or he can be like somebody that you don't want to you don't want to bully too hard. I mean, don't bully anybody, obviously, but like being 8 and thinking being attracted to my male friends is too much emotional labor, so I just made a game out of pretending I liked girls too. Oh my god, okay, let's play a game of like how many girl crushes we pretended to have. Um Everybody drop a number in chat, ready? Um No, I don't think I never really, I don't think I faked any girl crushes, but I did kind of go along with like if there were like girls that had crushes on me, um I would I like I was too nice to tell them, like, well, no, let's not say nice, because this, it wasn't nice to let it play out. I didn't like actively lead them on, but I didn't shut it down as quickly as I should have. um but like I was very nice in school, and and that could be misinterpreted sometimes. I'm a very friendly, I, well, okay, I say this, but then like I think most people find me off-putting now. But I was very friendly and a very warm person, I feel like, growing up, when it came to like, you know, if I saw somebody was like having like a bad time, like I'd be, you know, I'd be trying really hard to make them feel better. um and some people misinterpreted that attention as me having a crush on them, when it's just like, no, I just don't want you to feel sad because I'm an empath, okay? And seeing you be sad is like making me sad. So okay, hang on. um I think it's an idea you can pin down and go to town. It can be fun. 3, I tried to pretend I had them. Oh, I know I faked crushes on girls my parents thought I liked. One was very close to asking me out, or I connected with some girls on an extremely friendly level, and I wrote that as attraction at a young age. Okay, you know what? Heteronormativity and like sort of modeling um, relationships off of like what you see around you is like very real in that sense. So it's like, do I like you like that, or do I just like you like as a friend, when you don't really have like that like full understanding yet of just like, oh, maybe I just don't like them that way, and maybe I just don't know what like liking somebody means until it's like happens with like a boy. Is like, I feel like it's a very real experience. I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened to you, but I think that's something probably that happened with me. I'm not remembering it super well because I feel like grades 1 through 3, or K through 3, I guess, are like, I only remember like 2 or 3 experiences out of them, and then it's a complete blur because my brain was like, I was probably sniffing too much glue to remember what was happening during that time, or shoving a highlighter up my nose. I was preparing myself for the popper life as I got older. That's a terrible joke. I shouldn't say that. Oh, I found the sports cartoon show. Oh my god, bitch. Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about now. Holy shit. Core memory unlocked. I was honestly convinced it was a phase, assumed I'd grow up. I'd eventually grow to like girls, and it never came. I was like, eventually I'll for sure start to feel that way about girls. Um, yeah, for me, it was, okay, and okay, I want to word this very carefully because bisexuality is obviously valid. No bi erasure is allowed on this channel. But I do think some people are like a little bit scared to talk about a certain type of experience with bi curiosity because it would contribute to confirmation bias about bisexuality being a phase in that kind of like narrative, which is obviously not true. And like we should like stop that. But it's like for me when because I didn't know like that like romantic attractions and sexual attraction can be like completely different things. I just assumed I was bi for like a long time, and I didn't realize that like I was attracted to somebody like emotionally and like romantically, but like not necessarily on a physical standpoint. So I'd say overall I'm kind of like I'd consider myself panromantic, because I feel like I can fall in love with like anybody, but when it comes to like attraction, like physical attraction, like it's kind of I would say I'd probably line closer to gay, but I know that gets kind of confusing with like with they them pronouns. They had male cartoon shirtless doing water sports in that show, and I was very unsure on how to calculate it. I feel that honestly, like the gay panic that I feel during certain shows is like, oh my god, I had a okay. We're unveiling my embarrassing anime crushes now. Does anyone remember the werewolf from Soul Eater? I just liked how stupid he was, but he was like also like built like a Dorito. So it's like I think I just liked himbos. At least like fictionally. I think in real life, I think like a genuine himbo can be hard to come by. I kind of always thought that the label gay sometimes trickled down straight methodology to bisexuality. I've watched a lot of shows about it involving the writer Russell T Davies. Interesting. Look, don't judge me, okay? I don't consider myself a furry. I don't think I ever had like a furry kind of moment personally. That could be wrong, but I don't remember it anyway. So if I did, I'm suppressing it very hard. So like my feeling towards Free from Soul Eater, was his name Free? It has nothing to do with him being a werewolf, but it was definitely not a detractor. Know some gay people personally who came out as bi first before eventually coming out as gay. I mean, look, everybody has their own journey. And I think the important thing to remember is that just because somebody is experimenting with the bi label and eventually chooses something, does not mean that like bisexuality isn't valid, and it doesn't mean that every bisexual person like has to choose, because like that's not how bisexuality works. And you don't need to be in like a polyamorous relationship to prove that you are attracted to multiple genders. And like, I know that, you know that, we know that, but like we kind of have to police our own language around people who might not know that. So that's why I'm very careful about whenever I like talk about that kind of like experience. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm just like, oh yeah, I had like my bi phase or something. It's like, no, it's just like I'm gonna be pretty honest about it. I didn't know that the two of romantic attraction and sexual attraction were different. Now that I know, which I actually learned that from that Q&A meeting. So but now that I know that, I'm just like, oh, okay, so that explains that. That makes me significantly less confused about a variety of feelings that I had throughout high school. But and then we move on. I absolutely didn't trace videos of that werewolf man's tight shirted body on my computer screen to practice drawing. Yeah, no, it's like there's like one episode. Oh my god, there's like one episode where like his like shirt is like off, and I'm just like, you don't have nipples or like any sort of body parts because this is anime, but like, thank you. it's just like so cringe, but it's just like, look, I was figuring things out. All right, I was figuring things out. Um, Also his voice can just like get it. I mean, like his voice actor is just like has like a good base. But on top of the fact that the character is just goofy, like yes, he's evil, but like I can fix him. It's fine. It's like yeah, he's trying to resurrect the Kishin, but like I can handle it. Russell T Davies wrote a show a decade ago about a man who knew his whole life he was gay, but then he realized at the start of the show that he was attracted to a woman. What's the name of the show? That sounds familiar. Um, have you tried to go after or be with someone you thought you could fix? Um, oh, you mean like a yes. Next question. It was very interesting because the character still wanted to clarify he was gay because his feelings didn't evolve into being attracted to women as much as being attracted to this woman. Yeah, it's why it's like gay but incidentally heterosexual for some people. That's how they'll like clarify it. Because like they could be like just only attracted to guys, but then there's like one person that like does it for them in that way. I think that's like the language is usually like incidental. But like that was from like 6 years ago, so I don't know if that's accurate anymore. So if that's outdated language, I am very sorry, internet. Please do not cancel me. You just awoke a dysmorphic flashback. Oh my god. Look, we some of us some of us are twihards. No, that's not true. But yeah, no, I was guilty of thinking I could like fix somebody. So it's called Bob and Rose. Why does that sound so familiar? Like the premise sounds familiar, but I don't recognize the name. Maybe I'll recognize the actors. No, I do not. Okay, well then I don't know what show I was thinking about. Bob and Rose was the inspiration for Jules and Mimi, the fictional British television show featured in Sex and the City. All right, good to know. Very random fact. I did not watch. Excuse me, I did not watch Sex and the City, but I love that Bob and Rose getting their flowers, I guess, as a piece of queer media in a show that was infamously terrible for handling queer topics. I don't know if anybody's seen the quote unquote woke reboot for Sex and the City, the sequel series where like they kind of like aggressively try to swing the pendulum the other way to be like, oh, like yeah, we're down with the gays and like we know what pronouns are now. Um I've only seen a couple of clips and I've heard people talk about it before, but like I haven't like actually watched it, so like they could be fucking lying. But yeah, I didn't watch the woke reboot for that. I have watched the woke reboot, well, the quote unquote woke reboot for Gossip Girl, and like, unpopular opinion, I love it. It is literally like he doesn't have blue hair, he has pink hair, but like he is queer. So we love pink hair and pronouns. Um No, it is a mess of a show. I don't love how two of the queer characters are kind of just not really given anything to do, but I do love that one of the central love triangles like is a bisexual love triangle, and it like kind of starts developing at least some thoughts of a polyamory. I feel like that was like a pretty good plot to like explore, but I also do recognize the show is just straight up bad. But I love it. It's a mess, but I love it. I've been learning about Russell as my Pride Month project. He was a gay man who was believed to survive the AIDS crisis in the 80s. A lot of his writing reflects experiences he either had or was told of by friends from the time. Interesting. Um, I know very little bit about this person. I just recognize the name. Um, but that's interesting. What sort of like drew you to doing it as like a Pride Month project? Um, and I guess like what does that project look like to you? Because I didn't set up one for myself, and now I'm feeling like maybe I should. Am I being a bad gay for like not like actively sitting down for um I don't I don't know why I was about to say like sitting down for gay stuff, and I'm like that sounds sexual and wrong. So um sitting down and like really taking the time to explore queer history and like my um my ancestors, if you will, in that sense, or my would we say ancestors, or I guess predecessors is like better than ancestors, but um also I have a, not that anybody cares, I have a big bug bite on my arm and it is bothering me so much, and it is what I hate about about it getting warm out is that now there are mosquitoes. Most people remember him from that. Okay, okay, yeah. That's yeah, from rebooting Doctor Who. Yep. All right, I got it now. That's yeah, that's where I know the name from. I'm not even like a super Wholock, but I was like surrounded by super Wholocks, and I liked Doctor Who. I just didn't watch it like a lot. I stopped watching after, was it Matt Smith? Is that his name? I stopped watching pretty early, but like I did keep up with like the newer stuff. He handled writing for the ninth and 10th Doctor before it was handed to Stephen Moffat. Okay, interesting. I swear to God. So like I know I'm like, I just like talked about how like I want openly queer actors to play queer characters, if they're going to be in leading roles, but like Ncuti Gatwa he's deep into this niche at this point. Okay, if you're gonna play gay Eric, you have to play gay Doctor Who too. So like make them gay. Only found the craving from watching a video about the contrast of a show that explores sexuality competently versus Loki's bisexual proclamation from his show. I still haven't watched Loki. My boyfriend keeps telling me to, and I've been really bad about it. I feel bad that some people started watching the show with Matt Smith. Okay, I didn't have cable, so listen. Some of us grew up in the middle of nowhere. He's a great actor, but his writer is awful. I remember very little about it, so I'm going to take that as a blessing if it means that I've blocked out terrible writing. Like the stuff that I remember the most from, also if you're hearing me move stuff around, it's because I have a nice back. Um the I remember the, was it Devil's Run? And then like A Good Man Goes to War or something. I basically just remember the arc with like River Song being like, spoiler alert, being like the future version of like Amy's daughter or something. I'm excited because Russell is doing the writing for Ncuti. Awesome. Okay, yeah. So we better be getting some gay shit. Give us the gay shit. Um, I don't like to pigeonhole actors, but like you've made your bed, now bottom in it. Um, um, sorry. I think I'm way funnier than I actually am, but no, I'm excited. I will I watch it? Probably not. because I don't know where I can watch it on. But I will be keeping up with Twitter, and I will be judging heavily whether this is some gay shit or not. Those 2 episodes have aged like milk. Wait, which ones? The one that I was talking about with in Doctor Who, or something entirely different, and I was just like brain dead for the past 2 minutes. I guess while we're talking about it, how do you guys or how do y'all feel about the queerification of canonically non-queer characters in like reboots, revivals, reinterpretations? How are we feeling about that? I personally stand it because it makes people mad, but um, but like I'm also very wary when it comes to like, are they going to handle it properly if they're like pinning a queer identity on top of a character whose backstory doesn't really have anything to do with that? Because like it would realistically add some nuance to them that is like more than just who they're going to be romantically attracted to in a story, if they get a love interest at all. Because like you might not, you might get America Chavez having a pride pin for a 2.5 hour movie, and then you only have to read the comics to know that she's canonically a lesbian. But she has 2 moms that she kills instantly, so it's fine. Like as soon as like they're just like, hey, look, we're holding hands because we're gay, we're lesbians, we're very in love with each other. Oh no, there's a bee. Oh no, our daughter punched a hole in the multiverse and we're dead. Demons are on a good man goes to war. Wait, why did they age poorly? Was there problematic shit in it that I just didn't notice as a kid, or is it just because it's bad? I'm curious because I don't remember anything really of it. I just remembered like the poem, I guess, of it. Was it a poem? They show Stephen Moffat's tendency to write the Doctor Who as a superhuman being that transcends human emotions and understanding, and oh, he's so great. Oh, yeah. That's just kind of like it's the supermanification of Doctor Who. I'm also Doctor Strange. Um, yeah, some people just don't get the assignment, myself included. I would not be able to write a Doctor Who, but that style of writing shows up in his other work, like Sherlock. Ooh, I avoided Sherlock because I knew about the queer baiting. No, it wasn't only because of like the queer baiting. It was like honestly, I was put off by like a lot of Tumblr fandoms. So like whenever somebody there was like a show that people were super into, like yes, I was that person that was like, oh no, I hate it because the fan base is annoying, and then like I'll never like watch the show. So I stayed away from it because of that. But then I got really annoyed with like the amount of like the amount of times that like Benedict Cumberbatch has like played queer or queer adjacent characters, or has like failed to address queer baiting um, in his career. Is just like, okay, no, I'm giving this is for me, this is valid reason to not like it because I don't want to have to see your face. Um, I mean, no offense to Benedict Cumberbatch. If you're watching this, I'm sure you were great in person, but maybe I keep forgetting I can't say there's I keep forgetting there's words I can't say um on Twitch or YouTube without getting in trouble. So just leave it to the girls, and then imagine a word that's not girls, and that is what it's something that I use a little bit casually as like on our well as like a little bit ironically and a little bit as like reclaiming the word, and that's and that's where I'll leave it. I put all the blame on Steven, so we all got our demons. Fair. But yeah, in sort of summation, personally, I don't mind the queerification of fictional characters. I think the queerification of like real people can be a hit or miss. I think if it's like if it's historical figures that are like so far removed from like our time, and it's like not in like a sort of exploitative way, then like queerifying real people can kind of just be fun as like sort of a fan fiction exercise. Like I know a lot of people are very split about Ammonite. That's like was it Kate Winslet? It's their Sharonan movie, where they like sort of they play up the friendship between two women. For it's another period lesbian drama. um and I know some people are just like, there was like a big debate about like whether this was like disrespectful to like somebody's memory, or if it was like very clearly, if it was like fictional enough to be able to be like, this person's just name is on this, but the story itself is fictional. um then like, that's an interesting discussion to have. As far as like fictional characters are concerned, I'm just like, I I mean, I love fan fiction, so I'm okay with making your characters gay. I'm okay with gender swapping. I'm okay with like characters, um, like sexualities being changed. I'm okay with um somebody's ethnicity being changed in a more diverse direction, not so much in like a whitewashing, ew. But letting an entirely white cast be recast as like people of color, you can stay. um God knows Harry Potter desperately needs it, but in my eyes, he's the European Michael Bay of spectacle and trash TV. You don't like the chaotic choice of making Martin Luther King gay. I think it's fair game once a person is so diverse from time that they become part of the pantheon of human history, like William Shakespeare. I agree. I think that's what it's like. I know people are going to have differing opinions on when that cutoff date is, but I think generally, like, it has to be like enough time has to have passed, um, and then also it has to be like very clearly disconnected from reality. Like, don't pretend that this is like a historical fiction, well, actually no, it could be historical fiction. Don't pretend it's like it's any like anything like biographical or whatever. But that's why like I enjoy Ammonite for as trash as it is. But if the family wants to tell me that they thought it was disrespectful, that's perfectly fine. They're way more than qualified to tell me that. But I also think it is interesting to look at figures throughout history who had like same gender companions that they were very close with, to like wonder if there was like anything a little bit more to that companionship than just being friends, or if history will only remember them as besties. It'd have to be so much time that there is no physical documented through line to modern time. I'm okay with, to be honest, I'm okay up until 1899. Yeah. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the first one, but Achilles, yes. Sorry, another big stretch. Had to mute my mic. It is 11:45. I'll be on for like a little bit longer, but it's, I mean, like, it's like I knew that I would like not having anything particularly planned to talk about. I was just like, I'm just gonna let the conversation kind of go where it does, and I mean, I'm liking the direction it's going. It's more interesting than me divulging queer trauma, so, which I don't have that much of outside of like questionable questionable hookups and some familial stuff of like dealing with homophobic or transphobic people. um but I mean, such a common experience at this point. There's always at least one relative that's like incredibly bigoted, and for some of us it is an entire side of the family. So but it's okay because I live far away from all of them, so I don't have to pretend to like them. because I don't see them on a daily basis. Of course, then you do run into sort of like the you do run into the dilemma like that I've sort of been beginning to see a little bit more without getting too deep into it. It's just like, you know, people are getting older, you start losing some of like your relatives, and it's kind of just like you do kind of have that complex relationship of letting go of somebody's queer phobia where, or even if you have to, like, at all, if it like if it's like keeping you from being able to have closure with this person passing, or if that will always be such like a pivotal part of your memory of them, to where you can't divorce those like painful interactions from your overall impression of this person. That's something that I'm like probably going to be dealing with for a very, very long time. And I think a lot of us probably can relate to that experience in some way if you have like grandparents, for example, that may not have been super supportive or have problematic views of some type. Well, I'm very good about rambling about random crap with a vague topic, so I'm glad I could help. Yes, thank you. You were my lifesaver. Because otherwise it is a lot of me going, I mean, that's gonna happen regardless, but... Because that's just me. My speech professor hated that. I did terribly in that class, but... But it's fine. That's super unrelated. I really, God, I need to get my, I need to figure out what's wrong with my follower alerts, because, like, because I'll be finding out that people, like, have, like, followed, like, way later. It's like, Aloe followed me earlier and I didn't see it. Because I'm dumb. My speech professor enjoyed the spectacle enough to give me a B. I love that for you. Of course, an imaginary homophobia complaint letter is still pending. Oh my god. Chaotic. You know, my speech professor didn't like my final project, which was like about racism in like news reporting when it came to, I mean, just talking about like anything, but she said I had too much data, which didn't really make a lot of sense, but go off, I guess. She said I had too much data, but then she said she didn't believe me by the end of it. She's like, we're gonna have to agree to disagree. I'm just like, you're telling me that there's no discrepancy between like how a white person is gonna be portrayed if they've committed a crime than like a person of color. Like, okay, cap. Too much evidence. Yeah, too much evidence, but she still didn't agree with me, so I guess it wasn't enough. I did go overtime though in my presentation, but to be fair, like, I was the last one that was gonna go anyway, and I wasn't holding people like after class. You know, like I wasn't making people like stay through their lunch period, or whatever they were doing afterwards. I'm pretty sure like it was like an 11 o'clock class, so most people were going to lunch afterwards. But yeah, it's like, it's not like I was holding people up. I just like knew that the person after me was like going to be thanking me for giving them another day to work on their presentation. But yeah, too much data. I'm just like a little bit too big brain, you know. That's such a fucking lie. I mean, at least I didn't fail. I don't remember what grade I got in that class. I think I was like, I was probably a B plus A minus. I'm not a good public speaker, honestly. Like, I hate public speaking. I have like terrible anxiety around it. It's why like being salutatorian was not fun, because like you have to be the first speaker at graduation, and then on top of that I had like a solo because I was playing in the band. It was a lot. That was a very scary day, and I feel like I blocked out most of it from my memory because of that. I'm hoping I don't ever have to like do anything like that again. But I think sadly the trajectory of what I want out of my life aspirationally, it will involve a lot of me having to be public facing, and that's like scary. I always think I'm a public speaker until someone gives me attention, right? I'm good in like, ooh, sorry. I'm good in smaller settings. Like I can talk about I mean obviously I can talk about shit. Um fairly competently. But when it's like in front of like a class and you have to be delivering a specific message, not so much. I haven't been put in a situation where I've had to present anything other than something as like a graded assignment. Like I have not had to like discuss something with a board of directors or something. I think the closest thing that I ever had to do was like I was at a city council meeting once and I was talking about saving the music program, I guess. So that kind of counts, um but I mean that was scary too though because I knew it was on TV. Like people talked to me about it the next day, and I completely blacked out during it. To be honest. OMG, what was your graduation speech about? Or you don't remember? Um, what was my graduation speech about? Okay, well, so story time, I guess, because we're gonna. This stopped being about queerness, and this started just being me unpacking how terrible it was to be a high schooler and a college student. Um, so in like the podium, everybody had their speeches so that they could like read off of it during it, because like memorizing a speech is not fun, but definitely doing it in front of like thousands of people is like terrifying if you're a literal child. But my my speech went missing the morning of. It was not in the podium when I went up there, and I was scared shitless because I did not remember what my speech was about. So because of that, I still do not remember what I talked about on stage, but apparently it was not bad, so I will take it. Um, but I completely blacked out that entire scenario. I was like fucking terrified. I do well in high stress situations, so I usually get super anxious beforehand, and then I'm behind the podium and become an attention whore. I'm a glutton for showmanship, especially if I'm given a top hat. I love that for you. I'm like sort of an in and out kind of person. So you improvised? Yes, I did. Um, I don't remember what I said. I know there's a recording of it. Um, I just don't, I don't I like I'm scared to watch it, to be honest. Um, I also was like, oh my god, I was very cringe at my. I was kind of just generally cringe at my graduation. I tried to do like a funny thing when you go on stage to like take your like accept your diploma. I tried to do like a funny pose, and it was like actually just came off as me being like a fucking idiot. So, um, it was bad. And it ended up on Facebook too, so I'm just like, well, I'm gonna ask to not be tagged in this post, please and thank you. I just enjoy living under the delusion I'm an introvert until someone clocks me. I feel that. I'm I feel like I'm in a weird spot where like on one hand like I am very shy and I have like introverted tendencies, but when it comes to like the strictest definition of like an introvert and extrovert, when it comes to like do you gain energy from being around other people, or are you like sapped of energy when you're around other people? And I feel like I get very lonely very quickly. So I think in that sense I'm like a little bit extroverted, but um and like I do become like a very chatty person if I'm like anxious, um, or manic. You know, I mean, both of those things can happen at the same time because we love having overlapping mental illnesses. But uh, but yeah, no, it's just like I think ultimately though, like I do like quiet. So like I'm still okay with saying I'm an introvert. It just I get kind of like I get in moods. You know what happens. Um, my artwork helps me stay in tune and properly uncomfortable with my inner isolated introvert. That's me with that's me with music. I feel like um I've been forcing myself to practice more recently because I was I've spent the past several years slacking heavily. Somehow my I'm adjusting in my chair right now, if that's what you're hearing. Somehow my guitar calluses are still here, but I have lost the piano claw. So when I was practicing the other day, it physically hurt, and I hated it. But like I've been forcing myself to at least remember to do scales every day, um, which is like so basic, but like it's like I kind of have to if I want to like be serious about any projects I work on. People ask me how I define myself as a person in a couple of words, and I just say turbulent. Oh my god, I love that for you. I think that's like iconic. I would probably say I'm like, I mean, my partner disagrees, but I would call myself shrill. I would define myself as very shrill and very jumpy. I'm like a I'm like a very skittish like cat. So I sleep a lot, and then like I get scared around people I don't know. And it just makes me want to hide. But that's oversharing. I don't know. Sporadic emotional highs and lows created from high speed overthinking and analysis patterns. Yeah, that's me. That's basically me. It's like, ooh, well, okay, so I know last month was Mental Health Awareness Month, but you know what? I don't stop being mentally ill just because a special month goes away. I really wish I could like control. We're going super off topic now, but like, man, I fucking wished I could like control my little like mania bursts because I feel like I've become very social and very confident during. I mean, that's kind of the definition of like typical mania with like people who are like bipolar. I wish I could control those and like save those for like job interviews or when I have to like give like a presentation or something. And then like and then I can just be depressed when like I want to go to sleep because then I'll just pass out. Like why can't I have that level of emotional control? I usually curb it with a rewatch of Community. Girl, go in. I'm still black and it's not February, and I'll be gay after June. Period. Um, and last month was like Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month too. I meant to do a stream on it and I forgot because I'm silly. Um, I was gonna stream on like the very last day of May for it, and then like but I got sick. um so I felt bad. I feel like a bad Asian for not doing it, but at the same time I was like I wasn't really sure what I was going to talk about anyway. I guess I can kind of dip into it now because we're like talking about whatever at this point. um yeah, I don't know. I mean I guess I did talk about it like a little bit at the beginning of the stream, which is kind of sort of like overlapping, like the overlap of like race and being like both a racial and sexual minority in like a very homogenous small town community, and how that is like um very taxing on your mental well-being, whether you recognize it at the time or not. But I mean that's kind of like it though. It stops being interesting after that. I didn't really like my parents did their best to try to like keep certain like traditions alive for my sister and I, um but like she and I kind of got like over it a bit. And I kind of wish that I'd done better about like sticking with it, because I probably actually would have been a more interesting adult if I had maintained practices and actually like learned Vietnamese. But you know, you know, hindsight is 2020. I was trying to remember what aphorism I was thinking of. Also, oh, you know, I don't know that I have to share this with y'all. My ear is bleeding, so I'm gonna like probably tend to that after stream. Uh, um,
Just live your life, Bessie. It's Asian History Month for you for the rest of your life, and no one can take that from you. I always have to weigh how much I care if I'm doing holiday themed artwork. My heart has to be in it if I'm doing Pride Month art. It's not going to be a white muscle twink in this video unless I say so. Period. Manifesting that kind of energy for myself, honestly. Um, and yes, my ear is like bleeding. I don't know why. And that's not a dig on like this playlist because I actually do enjoy this playlist quite a bit, but um like no, it is not literally making my ears bleed. Um I'm like it's sad because like I'm so careful about like ear care. Like I'm the person that wears earplugs to concerts, and like I play my music very low if I have my earbuds on. I like try to prioritize having headphones, and then I still have like ear issues. So it doesn't even matter. And like on top of that, like my meds give me like my ears ring a lot because of my meds, which is like a less fun side effect of that. But nobody asked for that information. I just felt like sharing. It's overshare o'clock because it is literally midnight. Oh yeah, I guess before I forget, because this feels like the perfect time to like throw it in. I watched Heartstopper several weeks ago. I'm ready to talk about it now if anybody wants to. I know it's kind of old news right now, but that is why I am fashionably late, but occasionally great pop culture takes. No, I should. I'm flop culture. Let's be honest. I thought it was cute. I was familiar with the comics. I had not read them though. I just sort of saw the art all the time, like on social media. But like I was familiar with the story, just like, but like again, I didn't read it, so I wasn't like an expert on it. I just knew when I saw it, sort of like trending, I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe they like adapted that. And then it's like it's so good. Talk spill release. Okay. Um, I I love how they handle. What's her name? Elle. I sort of love how it's just sort of how her plot is just sort of introduced where it's um like it's not like it's just so casually in conversation because like realistically it would be like they're just like, oh, she used to go to school with us but now she goes to a different school, like she goes to like the all girls school now, and then like that, like that's all you need to know like about the character, um for us to like know that it's like it isn't just like you know you shoehorn. I don't want to say shoehorn because that sounds bad. I think it's okay to have, obviously it's okay to have like a well defined and like laid out identity um in like a show to sort of express to somebody, express, you know, who someone is. um but I like the way that they did it because it feels significantly more natural if it's like they're just like talking, it's just friends talking to friends, you know. Like they wouldn't be making like very it wouldn't be like natural conversation is not exposition heavy, so I like that it was just very casually in there. That's about the fact that like, you know, it also just like normalizes the situation, which like yes, hell yes, let's normalize like people like being themselves and trans rights, duh. Heartstopper gave me some special therapy. I related to every character individually on a unique level. Have to rewatch the half of it sometimes too. I love the half of it. Heartstopper is so cute though. Elle's emotional isolation. Charlie's craving to grow as a developing gay. Nick's insecurity on not feeling straight or gay enough. And they didn't build my gay anxiety for drama, and that felt so fucking good. I know. I love. I've like talked about it like a little bit in the past, but I guess like I didn't do like you know, I might as well do like a, if this is going to be like the dedicated like Heartstopper conversation, then like yeah, I mean you were here though, like in the other stream when I was talking about like the importance of accessible queer media, because like as much as I like love parts of sex education, it does get like kind of a lot, and like if your only introduction to like queer topics is going to be sort of like a little bit more sexual than you might actually be, because like you can be gay but like not like sexual, then like that can it can make you feel like you don't belong in like your community if you're not like gay enough, if you're not trans enough, if you're not like, you know, whatever enough. um it's why I think having like a spectrum of content is really important. And I don't say this in the just like, oh, I wish they would, you know, sex ed is just like, it's too gay. I wish they would just put it away instead of like rubbing it everyone's faces. Obviously, that's not what I mean by the importance of accessible queer content. I just mean that like, in the same way that we shouldn't necessarily sterilize queer content, we also shouldn't like, what's the word I like? Sensationalize it too much either. Like if it works for the story, which for most of sex ed, like the spectacle is part of the story and it does work, then like that's like fine. But like again, it's like it's cool to have something that's like more laid back and more calm and not anxiety inducing. That's just how I feel about it though. Also refreshing for it to not be trauma porn, absolutely. No American high school drama structure of I'm just like every other kid, middle class, white, popular, quirky, but there's one thing that's not normal about me. It's proclaimed by the character, but I think the idea is that his identity is still developing. Yeah. Oh, for Nick is a bi icon. Yeah. Because I don't remember where the comic sort of lands on that, if it lands on it at all. Because obviously you don't have to quote unquote land anywhere when like in reality with like your sexuality. But I don't know if there's like sort of a defined canonized label for him in like the comics or not, because I have not read that far. I laughed at myself multiple times because I was expecting trauma porn, and then when nothing happened, I took a deep emotional release. Yeah, like when he comes out to his mom. I guess spoilers for Heartstopper, I guess, if you haven't watched it yet, but I think everybody in here has watched it. I'll just have to remember to put it in the description later as like a spoiler warning. But yeah, no, especially when like I love Olivia Colman, but I'm so used to her playing like antagonistic figures in shows at this point, because I saw her like in Fleabag, I saw her in The Favorite. So like I'm like and those are like the most prominent roles to me. So I'm just like, please don't be an asshole to like your your queer son. And then she's just like, oh, that's nice. I'm just like, oh, okay, we're good. Also, I expected like more violence from the fruity, not the fruity bully. Yeah, her casting was perfect if you read the graphic novel. Again, I haven't like read that far into it. I've like read parts of volume 1, and then I just kind of like I fell off a bit. Not because of like a lack of interest, but just because I have like lots of other things I'm like tending to on the back burner all the time. But oh my god, not the fruity bully. I mean, he was a little bit too obsessed with like him being gay. So I'm just saying. I mean, he is though. No comment, but like also yes. Not with his haircut. Okay, bye. I also got to acknowledge that Karina talked about the social media element of coming out and revealing you're gay. When he touches Nick, does other questionable stuff. Yeah. Mm-mm. Oh wait, are we talking about? I think we're talking about the same character, because there's two people that like in that show that make me feel very icky. Yeah, I did appreciate the realistic Insta comments. Yeah, you know, someone like brought up to me that something that like I thought was like really important but hadn't really thought about before. It's just like it is really nice that they like the show does say lesbian, because like it like lesbian is not a dirty word, but like a lot of times like when we talk about like, you know, lesbians, they get clumped in like under like it's like, oh, the gays. And I know for like a, you know, it's not really meant as like, it's not intentionally a harmful thing, because it's just sort of like it's kind of like how you guys is like sort of perceived as gender neutral in most contexts now. But it is still important to like recognize that like, hey, it's okay to say lesbians. They're lesbians. You don't have to say they're gays. You know, it's just okay to to recognize that there is a there is a unique label that speaks to a very specific experience that gay men cannot speak to, and that you should. It's important to acknowledge that and to separate that. I can't believe that women had to reclaim words everybody used because TV systematically censored terms like vagina or lesbians. Yeah, the when I think of what's the name of the clause that's in that was like used in literature all the time, that was like um that dictated like how you were allowed to write about lesbians. But like, I know bury your gays comes out of it, which is just like um I think people when they discuss bury your gays need to acknowledge that like the very root of it, like it's not just homophobic, but it's like very explicitly lesbophobic. And sometimes I feel like that discourse gets lost a little bit because it's just sort of like it's just sort of acknowledges like blanket homophobia, which is like it absolutely is homophobic. That trope is terrible, and it has like a history of ultimately demonizing queer people, but the roots are in like misogyny. It's lesbophobia. Obscenity laws, yeah. Yeah, that's the word. And I so wish I had Heartstopper when I was younger. Probably wouldn't have been allowed to watch it though. Aw. No, I do too. I'm really jealous of like sort of younger people being able to grow up with like more explicitly queer shows and how like have access to them, because I'm just like, I mean, I was a kid that was like, we were allowed to watch like 3 channels. And like the biggest thing at the time was like, oh, Good Luck Charlie, there's like 2 moms on it in like 1 episode and they're a B plot. Oh my god, so scandalous. And then like I was talking about it with like a friend earlier that like I love when you in sort of teen slash family dramas from like the 90s and the 2000s that are like when they do like very special episodes or whatever about and like they go and usually go into like a very real topic. So like for some of them they'll be like, oh, this is the episode where like we're going to talk about assault, or like we're going to talk about someone being addicted to drugs, or we're going to talk about domestic violence. And then there's an episode just like, just as scandalous, this person is gay. And it like treats it as if it's like the same thing, which like I guess in like a way it's just like, yes, it is like the same level of taboo when it comes to like how people are allowed to talk about it, because people, you know, there is lots of stigma around those other topics when it comes to discussing them, especially on TV during that decade. So I understand why it was like sort of treated that way, but it is kind of funny to see like anything where in like a dark teen drama where everybody has like such like a dark secret, and then like I mean, I'm thinking of Pretty Little Liars like right now too. It's like oh my god, it's such a dark secret, and then it's like something that like, I'm not saying it's normalized, I wouldn't say it's 100% normalized now, because obviously like, you know, the closet still exists and people are still like forced into it and like aren't allowed to come out, or they're outed, and everybody's relationship to queerness is very different in this country. I recognize that, but like on a TV show where like there's so many shows where people are just, the characters are just openly gay, it is funny to look back on like older dramas where like their entire plot was like, oh my god, I'm gay. It's like, you don't have any other personality traits, like you're just gay, you're the gay one. They get to grow up with Damian Wayne and Superman being gay bisexual. My envy grows daily. Disney's pushing the gay agenda, has a barely openly gay character, or an openly a character that's like reduced and minimized. Yeah, basically. I recommend, if you're bored listening to this growing YouTuber named James Somerton. He really is my favorite in LGBT media analysis. He's currently releasing a lot of videos since he went full Patreon. Okay, hang on. I'll write it down. So in my I wait. Let me look for James Somerton. Maybe if I see the face, I might know. I think I recognize them from Twitter. Oh my god, the the first thing that shows up is Fantastic Beasts. I almost did a Fantastic Beasts episode, but the Streamlabs was not cooperating with me that day. I feel kind of bad, um, because there was a queer topic that I wanted to discuss with that, and I didn't get to. Um, OMG babe, remember that Japanese reality show we watched where contestants had dark secrets and turns out like one of them was just trans? Yeah. I mean, like, I'm glad that everybody was like on the show, to my knowledge, was like, I mean, like, bare minimum is like be cool with it and use their pronouns. But it is interesting to see sort of like the how that was like vilified. Um, I mean, because I mean, like, there is like a very complicated conversation with like the trans community in Japan, and how I mean, chaser culture is still very much like a thing, like in Japan as well as it is here. It doesn't help that there's like lots of media that does fetishize like queer men and women that maybe and also like non-binary people in manga and anime, and to the point where it's become like a meme, and there's been like very ugly words that have been used to sort of objectify trans non-binary people in that kind of media, which I don't love. And I always get very I know that people don't mean it or don't recognize that they're being transphobic when they say it, um but it's like it's not great. It's pretty bad. um oh my god, Jesus. Yeah. um I'm glad that, like, well, it was so weird because like um the dark secrets on the show were like so like some of them were pretty dark. Like some of the a couple of them were just like I'm in debt, which is like, yeah, that's like still like dark, but like it's not like he had like loan sharks being chasing after him or anything, or at least to my knowledge. And it was just like, I'm in debt. Would you still date me if you knew I was in debt? Because it was like a dating show. And then like the another one was just like, I've killed a person. And I'm just like, oh my god. And then this other person just like, yeah, I'm trans, and I'm just kind of like, I'm just kind of minding my business. Like, are y'all cool with that? And I was like, oh yeah, totally. Which was a very heartwarming moment. And then one person was just like, yeah, I'm a sex worker. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. We respect sex workers in this channel, by the way. If you do not respect sex workers, there is the metaphorical door. We stand safe sex work. We stand trans people. Don't be racist. Don't be homophobic. Definitely don't be sexist. What else? I don't know. Y'all already know, though. I already know everybody in here is cool. But yeah, but the Harry Potter thing does remind me, though. I did kind of talk about it on stream once, but I think it kind of fits to talk about it now. If this is the gay stream, it's kind of similar to like I guess it's like sort of the bad end of like, you know, the gayification of of like non-queer characters. But so the recent Secrets of Dumbledore movie sort of I mean, it has tons of bad press around it, like in general, but one of the things that was brought up was that like, in order to cater to foreign markets, they made the scenes where Dumbledore is like heavily implied to at least have some feeling towards Grindelwald. They made it very easy to edit out and edit around it, and it's why it's like so inconsequential to the overall plot. After J.K. Rowling was like so adamantly being like, oh yeah, like Dumbledore was gay the whole time, like I'm woke, like respect me, I'm progressive, I have like a gay main character in my story, but he doesn't ever get to be gay. It's just like, oh my god. But It is an interesting conversation around like disposable queerness, or not just disposable, but like detachable queerness. I mean, um, in media when it comes to being able to make them palatable for international markets. I'm interested in opening up a discussion around that. For all sex rejectors, please direct yourselves to the exit package, including a Dolly Parton performance. I just don't know why they bothered with this movie. LOL. Virtually hidden identity. It's so covered in drama and bad will. Uh, yeah. I just don't like. See, like now though, I have like the hope slash promise of like them not being able to complete all of the movies because like they just haven't been performing well, and like the contract is like that, like the contract can end if it's like it's not something that they're forced to make. So like it's just gonna have to come out of like her own wallet if she wants to keep making them. If she's like really like, you know, ride or die for the Fantastic Beasts series, which I don't know why you would be, because I'm not. And then on top of that, I'm just like, if you know, can can we recast Ezra Miller's character if we're gonna continue them, because they are a mess right now. Um, it's like what was just added to their list of crimes of Grindelwald. They just like they were arrested for providing a minor um, alcohol, drugs, and I think it was like LSD was like one of them. It's just like, oh yikes. Um, and like they met them when they were like as like a younger fan, and the specific experience that they're in trouble for was like they were 12, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, where are you a grown them hanging out with like children like that, and then let alone offering them drugs and alcohol, like cringe. I feel bad because they wasted this on an actor who's known for doing amazing performance as a gay man in his younger years. I genuinely can't figure out how they wasted talent like freaking Jude Law. Yeah, that was like the thing I was like the most. Well, one of the things I was very upset about was just like, I wanted young hot Dumbledore. I would have rather had hot Dumbledore as a film series than like focusing on Newt Scamander. Like I don't give a shit about that character. Like why didn't why couldn't the the next movie that they work on, instead of it being a continuation of Fantastic Beasts, how come it couldn't just be like the the gay sex life of Dumbledore? Just make a just makes gay sex in the city but with like wizards, and it's Jude Law as Dumbledore, and there's like lots of hot gay wizard sex. I will be pitching this draft officially to Warner Brothers to make this movie once Fantastic Beasts falls over. We are going to be canonizing uh, Dumbledore smut in this project. I welcome any and all submissions of actual Harry Potter smut for inspiration. You will be credited in the as members of the writers' room. I like Newt in the first movie, but I hate that they let J.K. continue to write him. I really didn't care for his character at all, to be honest. Like I can like kind of see the appeal of like somebody who's just like has like a hard time relating to people, so he like relates heavily to like these like mystical creatures more, and like that's kind of his like special bond, and like his superpower is like empathy with animals at the expense of struggling to communicate with people. um but like that's like hard. That's like, it's like, okay, that's your story arc for movie one. Like what else are you gonna do with this character? There's like no place for them to go. It's funny you mentioned that because I know an artist who did some great Dumbledore and Grindelwald fan art. Was it you? Did you draw them 69ing? Because I would. If I knew how to draw, um I mean, I guess if I knew how to draw, period. But if I knew how to draw the Sykes, the gay Sykes, then like I would. Okay, wait. Okay, so I know I said I was not going to be entertaining this question specifically because I feel like it's like thrown around a lot, but I'm okay with doing it with like fictional characters. Which one's on top? Who's at the top and who's at the bottom? Like Grumbledore, hello yeah, Dumbledore and Grindelwald. Like who's on top? Or are they verse queens? Oh god, they're not 69ing. Why? It's the Spluciatus curse. Some I'm trying to think of some Harry Potter spells that I can make a sex thing. Um Yeah, I think Grindelwald is like a strict top that's been like he's becoming more open to it through like Dumbledore's sort of tenderness, but like he's dealing with a lot of internalized homophobia and in turn internalized bottom phobia. And he just needs to like learn to embrace the pillow princess he really is deep down inside. They'll be casting Patronuses. I don't know why my brain was like Scatronuses. I'm just like, I'm not bringing scat play into my Dumbledore Grindelwald smut fic. You know, I don't consider myself like heavily a kink shamer, but I will keep that out of my fan fiction. Most other stuff is like not off the table, but scat, piss, and blood are probably not like they're not there. And with that very cursed that very cursed like string of thought, um I'll be online for a bit like after this, but I'm just gonna wrap it up for so then when I like edit this later, I have a clear place to like end for the stream, and then we can talk about whatever like right afterwards. I'm just gonna do my outro. Thank you to everyone who came through, to everyone who's watching. Friendly reminder that I stream every single episode of this on twitch.tv/Girl or a podcast. Feel free to drop a follow, come through and vibe, turn on the live notifications so you can join the live chat. Oh god, what else? I had this down to a science the other day, and then I'm fucking it up. I'm flopping. She's flopping, Your Honor. Um, but I hope to see you there. Nope, that's not what it was either. Oh my god, why am I so bad at this? All right. I stream Mondays, Thursdays, and sometimes Fridays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. What will the next stream be? I'm for sure streaming on Monday. It might be a shorter stream because I have to drive my mom to the airport the following morning. So I'll let people know like on Twitter or Instagram what I'm talking about, because I don't have one at the top of my head like at the moment. I also don't like promising topics too ahead of time, because then I end up like breaking my promise or being a fucking liar. But you know, that is something for Monday Sean to contend with, not Thursday Sean, because Thursday Sean needs to get some sleep. So I will catch all of y'all next time. Bye.